Okay, thank you very much. Senator Xenophon.
I know that many senators have questions. Have I got 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes?
You've got as long as you like.
Okay, well, I've got well.
Tremendous news, Senator. Tremendous.
No, we'll be coming back. I'll ask a few minutes because I've got another estimates committee hearing. Yeah, another estimates committee hearing downstairs. Can I just go to the issue of the ABC Adelaide TV's production unit?
Yes.
Perhaps I could just cut to the chase. Why does the 5 to 6% funding cut, which on the record I disagree with, why would that translate to a 100% funding cut for a program unit which is successful in any measure? And as you're aware, the ABC production unit made the the Countdown 40th anniversary documentary, which rated 1.429 million.
It did. We discussed it earlier, and I've encouraged Senator Fifield to watch it on iView.
Yes, and you're going to but you're going to shut down that.
Senator, I'm happy to talk. We did talk about some of this earlier, but I'm happy to give you background and context again. I'm not going to talk about the Adelaide production unit specifically tonight. I said in my introductory remarks, we're still finalising business cases, and my first briefing on the substance of the decisions reached by the board and by the executive team will be a briefing of staff on Monday morning. Let me talk broadly about internal television production. The Lewis Review has looked extensively in this. Why has the ABC closed internal production units in Tasmania? Why have we pulled back significantly in Perth? Why, when we built our new building in Brisbane, did we not build a studio for internal production? And that is because, as Mr Lewis's report identifies, there's very high fixed cost in keeping a team there and the capital involved in keeping a studio open. And around the world, and certainly around Australia with every other broadcaster, the model that makes internal production work is to have a studio and have it fully utilised and fully operating. And the way that we do that in Sydney and Melbourne is by doing programs that we run year-round, like Giggle and Hoot, like Media Watch, like Q&A, long seasons like Catalyst and Compass. That's how you make those production studios viable. They've done terrific work in Adelaide, Senator. Countdown, there's another program that's ready to run. You know as well as I do, Senator, the talent of some of the people that work there. But it's very hard to keep viable internal production studios going around the country. And the ABC once could do that.
Well, you're not suggesting Adelaide's inefficient though, are you?
I'm saying, Senator, that the maximum efficiency in running internal studios comes with keeping them fully occupied, fully utilised. So the programs that they put out are of good quality, and the team there is valued by us. But the way you make studios work most efficiently is keep them fully utilised and operating, particularly on long-run series. Now, that's not to say, Senator, and I made this point earlier, we want to make production in Western Australia, in South Australia, in Tasmania, but it's very narrow to suggest the only way you can do that is to keep a fully functioning television studio operating, fully equipped with professional teams working in-house. Anzac Girls was very successful for us, made in South Australia with the South Australian independent production community. There are a range of programs we've made in Western Australia, South Australia and increasingly Tasmania, where we work with the independent production sector, we work efficiently, we often get money that comes from state governments and Screen Australia for those productions, and it makes more sense. There is a finite amount of programming that it makes sense for us to create in-house. There is a sweet spot of internal and external production that we want to make. That's a different
What is that sweet spot in your view?
Well, it is to say that we believe that there are some programs that it makes more economic sense for us to make in-house. And they are particularly those programs that we are running effectively full year round. It would make no sense for us to outsource Q&A or outsource Media Watch or outsource Giggle and Hoot, because we are basically in the studios making those every week, and they keep your studios kind of fully occupied. What it is harder to do is to do one-off programs in-house, particularly one-off programs that if you don't do them in-house, you might attract funding that helps offset some of their cost. Funding that comes from Screen Australia, funding that comes from South Australian Film Corporation or Film Victoria or Screen West. And so these are all factors that we need to take into account. So I have said previously here that I believe in that mixed model of internal and external production, but it is hard to sustain around the country all the studio facilities that we once had.
Well, you've shut them down. You've shut them apart. Adelaide's the last one outside Sydney and Melbourne that's open.
And if you look at commercial broadcasters around the country, that's what they've done. You look at SBS, they make no internal production around the country. What I have said that we will do, of course, is that we are going to report on the programming we make around the country. We want to reflect the country. We want to make programming in the country. The question that we are currently wrestling with is what is the best model to deliver internal production. And our modelling and the kind of work done by Mr. Lewis and others suggests that to run studios at scale is the best way of dealing with the capital requirements and the best way of ensuring high utilisation.
Okay, I just want to, because I'm concerned about time constraints and my colleagues want to ask questions.
Yeah.
If you, there's no question that the Adelaide production unit is quite efficient in terms of...
They've done some great programming, Senator.
Yes, but not just that. I mean, my understanding is that it doesn't seem to have the demarcation issues that the ABC may be known for in some other areas, and that's not being pejorative in any way. Its producers are thought to be the first to desktop edit their programs.
Good people.
That saves money. They're also trained in filming. They're in a small unit. They're multi-skilled. I think they do a whole range of tasks where that itself is quite efficient. Yeah. If you give them volume, you get better value for money rather than having to outsource productions, don't you? Yeah,
it is a volume question, and part of the challenge that we face is what is the sweet spot of the percentage of internal production and co-production that we do. And if you look at our pattern of programming over time, we feel that we have been challenged to keep all our internal production facilities going at the capacity that the capital expenditure demands that they should be utilised in.
But you already have the studio in Adelaide.
Yeah, but Senator, what we have, frankly, is a very important issue. We have a studio. The studio is full of capital equipment. The capital equipment is worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. The capital equipment depreciates. You need to buy new equipment, new facilities, new cameras, new lighting, new edit suites. That is a very significant part of the cost of running these internal productions.
Sorry, but not the Adelaide production unit. They actually, they film docos. They film.
Yeah. But you also have studios that you are keeping and that you are operating.
You need a studio for the news bulletins.
Yes, but it's a very different studio, Senator. Senator, we have a studio in our Brisbane building that we use for news bulletins, but we don't have an internal production facility in Brisbane. But we make programming in Queensland working with the independent production sector.
But the Countdown special, the Beatles Came to Town special, they didn't require a studio as such.
Yeah, but they required equipment, they required facilities, they required staff.
Editing equipment.
It's more than a studio, Senator. A studio is part of it, but it's more than that. And I can tell you, Senator, as we've dealt with these internal production issues in Western Australia and in Tasmania and South Australia now and then has taken place in Brisbane, it is a very hard transition. But I think our people have delivered good programming there, but the challenge we have faced, and we've faced for a considerable period of time, is the amount of internal production we're doing enough to keep 3 studios operating at peak efficiency? That is a challenge for us.
My understanding is that they don't actually use the production studios in Adelaide. They do a lot of filming outside.
Yeah, Senator. They do a lot of filming outside. They do a lot of filming outside, sure. Senator, but still they are mainly operating, with the exception of one series that they are doing, that they have just completed. A lot of that filming took place around the country, but it was an Adelaide production team that did it. Most of those episodes were filmed in other states. It was very similar to what we had in Tasmania, where they were making programs where they're often flying around the country and flying back.
will there be a cost, is there some objective cost-benefit analysis in terms of the efficiency of the last remaining production facility outside Sydney and Melbourne?
We have looked at this extensively, Senator, and I'll be able to provide more details when I brief the staff on Monday, and I will certainly be happy to talk with you about it
So
as well.
an objective benchmarking in terms of the efficiencies?
Yes, we have looked at our internal production capability and how we best utilise our resources, and this has been something that we have looked at over a considerable period of time now.
Okay, I mean, look, there will be other opportunities.
Yeah, there will,
after the announcements, and we can. But you know, when the ABC board last closed a major part of Adelaide's TV division, the board went on to regret and reverse that decision. That was during the 2003 funding cuts. The ABC shut down behind the news, and that was reversed.
Yeah.
So that sometimes the board does get it wrong.
Senator, none of us are perfect on this. We deal with the best information we have at the time on these matters. We've had advice. Mr. Lewis has given us some significant guidance on how we think through the capital allocation questions and dealing with the overheads and the trade-offs that are involved in keeping an internal production capability going. I think, you know, one of the interesting things, there would have been some people, and I've had people who say to me, the ABC should make no internal television production at all. This is not something that I have embraced, and this is not something that the Lewis report recommends. But where do you do it, and how do you get the volume right? These are things that we're all thinking and working through now.